Thousands of years before Aegon's conquest of Westeros, the lands of the known world were ruled by ancient powers, remembered largely through myth and legend. Yet during this time, known to Westerosi as the Age of Heroes, a darkness fell upon the world, leading to years of devastation, with the many cultures and civilizations that endured such hardship developing their own interpretations of events. In Westeros, it was remembered as the Long Night, a generation of darkness, when the mysterious northern creatures known as the Others invaded southern lands. The Others, also called White Walkers, were tall and gaunt, with skin as pale as milk and eyes that shine bright blue. They wore camouflage armor and wielded thin swords of ice, imbued with magic to freeze and break enemy armaments. Stories say they were also able to summon ice spiders, ride reanimated horses, mammoths, bears, and direwolves into battle, even reviving fallen enemies to create an army of undead warriors known as Whites. Against the might of this terrible foe, the weapons of the First Men and magic of the Children of the Forest did little good, forcing many survivors to retreat south, their hopes for victory all but lost. However, in the face of such difficulty, legends say the last hero emerged, wielding a sword of dragon steel and embarking upon a quest to travel north in search of the elusive Children of the Forest who'd gone into hiding. The hero did this in the hopes of convincing them to help humanity in their renewed efforts against the northern invaders. The last hero underwent this journey with a horse, a dog, and a dozen companions, but lost them all along the way, even seeing his sword freeze and snap from the brutal cold. But eventually, he found the children and convinced them to lend their support. After suffering tremendous losses, the First Men now had several tools to help them in their struggle. Over the years of fighting, they learned that dragon steel and dragon glass could be used against their enemy, and also re-established contact with their allies in the Children of the Forest. And so the Westerosi rallied behind an organization known as the Night's Watch and won a decisive victory in the Battle for the Dawn, eventually pushing the others back into the lands of Always Winter. In order to prevent any such invasion in the future, stories say Bran the Builder, credited as the founder of House Stark, raised a massive wall in the north, with the Children of the Forest casting powerful spells and enchantments on the ice. The Night's Watch was then charged with the task of protecting the southern realms from all threats north of the wall. Yet Westeros was not the only civilization to face the years of darkness and develop a story about a hero who returned light to the world. Across the narrow sea, in the lands of the Rhoynar, legends say a terrible night fell upon them, causing the waters of the River Rhoyne to freeze, until a hero emerged to unite the children of the goddess mother Rhoyne to sing a secret song which brought back the day. Beyond the Bone Mountains, they tell of the great empire of the Dawn, who ruled a mighty realm for thousands of years, until the reign of the Amethyst Empress, who was betrayed and killed by her brother, crowning himself the Bloodstone Emperor. According to tradition, his corruption saw him consume the flesh of man and practice the dark arts, even taking a tiger woman as his wife. Worse still, he abandoned the gods of his people to worship a black stone fallen from the sky, possibly becoming the first high priest of the Church of Starry Wisdom. The deeds of this usurper proved so wicked, the Maiden Maid of Light turned her back on the world, leading to an age of darkness, when the Lion of Night came forth to punish the realms of men. The devastation of these years only ended when a hero emerged, wielding the sword Lightbringer and leading the armies of man against the forces of night. Unfortunately, the great empire of the Dawn did not survive the darkness, and in its place, a successor state formed, known as the Golden Empire of Yi Ti, which grew to be a powerful territory in its own right, though they never again reached the fabled heights of the Great Empire. An alternative account of the Long Night from Yi Ti claims that the sun hid its face from the world for a lifetime, ashamed of something no one could discover, with disaster only averted because of the actions of a woman with a monkey's tail. This curious legend aside, it was the story of a hero who fought the armies of darkness with a flaming sword that spread throughout eastern Essos, with many cultures adopting their own version of the tale. Along the Bone Mountains, in the patrimony of Hirkun and its successor realms, some claim the figure was known as Hirkun the Hero, while others, possibly from the lands of Nagai, where they founded the city of Nefer, the name Neferion was given to the mighty savior of humanity. Along the southern coast, possibly from the lands of Yi Ti, the figure was given the name Yin Tar. Another name given to this hero was Eldritch Shadow Chaser, but the most well-known and well-traveled name came from the mysterious city of Ashai, where the followers of the Red God R'hllor say the figure was Azor Ahai, who wielded Lightbringer, the Red Sword of Heroes. The legends of Azor Ahai then go further, claiming that in his first attempt to forge the mighty sword, he labored for 30 days and nights, but the weapon shattered as he tempered it in water. Again he tried, this time working 50 days and nights, then driving the sword into the heart of a lion to imbue it with the animal's strength, but once again he failed. Finally, he labored for 100 days and nights, and called for his wife Nisa. With great sadness, he drove the sword into his wife's heart. It is said that her cry of anguish and ecstasy left a crack across the face of the moon, but her blood, her soul, her strength, and her courage all went into the steel. The ancient prophecies of Ashai then go on to claim Azor Ahai would one day return, reborn to fight against a new darkness. Thousands of years later, when humanity faced the end of a long summer and were soon threatened by yet another long night as the others of the far north stirred and began marching south, the Red Priestess Melisandre found herself in Westeros, searching for Azor Ahai reborn. Inspiring her efforts are the visions she sees in flames, and her interpretation of a number of prophecies from the Far East. According to Melisandre, within the ancient books of Ashai, it is written that there will come a day after a long summer when the stars bleed and the cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world. In this dread hour, a warrior shall draw from the fire a burning sword, and that sword shall be Lightbringer, the Red Sword of Heroes, and he who clasps it shall be Azor Ahai come again, and the darkness shall flee before him. She also states that when the red star bleeds and the darkness gathers, Azor Ahai shall be born again amid smoke and salt to wake dragons out of stone. Melisandre becomes convinced Dragonstone is the place of smoke and salt, and that Stannis Baratheon, true heir to King Robert, is Azor Ahai reborn, even arranging a ceremony in which he pulls a burning sword from a fire, then hailing him as the hero of humanity. However, as the years go on and the War of the Five Kings erupts throughout Westeros, Melisandre becomes less certain of her interpretation of prophecy, later heard remarking, "I pray for a glimpse of Azor Ahai, and R'hllor shows me only snow," likely in reference to Jon Snow of the Night's Watch, who some consider a possible candidate for the hero of legend. And while he was eventually betrayed by his brothers, stabbed several times and left to die, even this event lends credence to his role as Azor Ahai. For during the night of the mutiny, Bowen Marsh was said to have tears in his eyes, and given the cold, Jon's wounds were breathing smoke. If he does not die or is resurrected, it may be at this moment that Jon is reborn amid smoke and salt. Further adding to this theory is that Sir Patrick of King's Mountain had just been killed by the giant, One-Weg One-Dar-One, who still held his bloody body in the air. As it so happens, Sir Patrick's sigil was a star, and stars lined his cloak, meaning Jon may also have been reborn under a bleeding star. According to the Red Priest Benero of Volantis, it is in fact the mother of dragons, Daenerys Targaryen, who is Azor Ahai reborn, having once walked into a funeral pyre where the flames and tears of the witch Mirri Maz Duur may account for salt and smoke. This also occurred while a red comet traveled across the sky, which can be interpreted as the bleeding star. Others also point to her birth on Dragonstone, which may itself be the place of smoke and salt. Benero claims that Daenerys will triumph over darkness and bring a summer that will never end, sending the Red Priest Makoro to make contact with the Queen and help guide her down the path she must follow. While other candidates exist, such as Aegon Targaryen or Victarion Greyjoy, most seem to believe that the likely candidates are Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen. In addition, there is the concept of a prince who was promised, which some, like Melisandre, use interchangeably with Azor Ahai. However, there are additional prophecies specifically associated with the prince, such as the words of the Woods Witch, later known as the Ghost of Highheart, who claimed the prince who was promised would be born from the line of Aerys and Rhaella Targaryen, parents of Rhaegar and Daenerys, and the possible grandparents of Jon Snow, who may be the secret child of Rhaegar and Lyanna Stark. It is believed that Rhaegar himself thought his son Aegon to be the prophesied prince, saying that his was the Song of Ice and Fire. And while the figure is popularly referred to as a prince, Maester Aemon of the Night's Watch claims the word in the original High Valyrian is gender neutral and can mean prince or princess, leading him to believe that Daenerys, with her mighty dragons, is the hero they awaited. A special thanks to all those who contribute to Civilization X, like Tormus Woods Whisperer, Ryanon, and Joey Lady Venetian. If you'd like to help the channel with a monthly donation, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to see more.